So, welcome to the inaugural episode of Whiskey and Wealth Tech presented by First Rate. So, the purpose of this podcast is to talk a little bit about whiskey, talk a lot about the wealth tech market, what kind of challenges and trends people are seeing, and how First Rate can potentially provide solutions for those problems. So, to introduce myself, my name is Alex Sermon. I'm the Managing Director of Wealth here at First Rate. And with me today is Mary Kopczynski, the founder and CEO of RegAlytics.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Mary. So before we get into the meat of our discussion, I think the first word in our podcast is whiskey. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So today we'll be enjoying a little bit of the High West Rendezvous Rye. So High West is a craft distillery out of Park City, Utah. They're actually the first distillery in Utah since 1870, and they're the only ski-in distillery in the US. So if you decide you're skiing over in Park City and you want to stop by, you can just ski right in.
And I've been there. I went there when there was their first year opening, and we actually got a bottle of Campfire because we were so surprised that we liked it. And they had an old fashioned, but the best part was they set the orange rind on fire in front of you as they put it in the cocktail.
Wow.
And so to this day, when my husband makes me my old fashions, he lights the orange on fire to give it a little smoked flavor. Obviously, they've grown and have gone everywhere, but we have in fact skied into it, and their food's delicious. So if you ever have an opportunity to go in person, it is a wonderful experience, but book in advance. They got way too popular now.
Oh yeah, and they are not a sponsor of this episode, just in case. So this is all free advertising.
Yeah, but they should be, right?
Yeah, today we're drinking the Rendezvous Rye, which is the flagship whiskey of High West. And so it's a blend of straight rye. It's a mix of the MGP 95% rye and 5% malted barley, and then High West's 80% rye with 20% malted rye. So without further ado, we'll start drinking.
Let's do it. Oh, you're going for it. I'm pouring it. Oh no, I went too far. You're supposed to go just under the tulip, the bouquet of the tulip. So I went too far on accident, but I guess
this is why I poured beforehand, because I would spill on camera.
I do smell citrus in this. And now I'm going to taste it. Are you ready? Oh, it's so nice. It's so smooth, especially for a young one. And it's on the sweeter side. So I really like it because it's very drinkable alone. I don't even need a rock in it.
I agree. And I mean, I get some mint and eucalyptus, which is pretty common for rye whiskey, but
they said on the tasting notes, grass. I can smell the grass.
Yeah, it is very, very floral like that. And, or maybe not floral, but more herby.
I just pick up a lot of orange. And I think it's because for the end of time, I will always think burnt orange whenever I taste High West.
Yep. Those kind of memories really do have a strong correlation with how you smell things and, how you taste it. Because I mean, I've had whiskeys that I'm like, this smells like my grandfather's shaving lotion. And it's like, I don't know what the actual
intent of it is.
Smell is, but it's just, that's what I think of.
You know what I think of? It's funny you say that. Wood of a ski lodge. It could just be associated with my memories of it. But it does. It's a unique experience because you're used to drinking whiskey in a smoky library with leather, furniture, and to be there in your ski boots doing something that's somewhat athletic, but to be in these dark paneled wood, it's almost like the inside of a barn, and it feels very European, which is funny because you step outside and Park City is such a modern, cool ski town. It's really, really the taste fits the ambiance of where I experienced it the first time. So Alex, what do you do for First Rate, and what does First Rate do anyway?
So First Rate is a wealth tech provider that provides investment performance and reporting solutions to typically large wealth management firms. We offer solutions for the institutional market, broker-dealer market, alternative asset management, along with your bank trust wealth space. And so what we do on a regular basis is taking in accounting level data, processing it, and giving clients the confidence in their performance that they then report on to their clients. And so, as an investor, if you're asking your investment advisor, how's my portfolio doing? What's it look like? And they print you out a nice, pretty report. First Rate makes that report look pretty, and it makes sure that every single number on that page is accurate and clearly communicated to you.
Oh, wow. So you guys kind of just take whatever it is in their back end systems of how they're doing their business, but then you turn it into that end product that is accurate and something that the investor can really see the breakdown of what they're investing in. Interesting.
Exactly. And this can be communicated over several different ways. We're pretty open architecture software. And so whether you're using APIs, extracts, using our own reporting system, there's a lot of different ways that First Rate can plug and play with other partners that you might be integrated with. And we're really agnostic to kind of what accounting system, what reporting system that you use. And you can best believe that those numbers will be accurate and correct pretty much all of the time.
So you're really the leading experts on performance metrics.
I would say so. Mary, tell me a little bit more about what kind of value you add to the subscribers of RegAlytics, what kind of news and updates you offer them, and how that will help them prepare for new regulations, news, anything like that, in whatever industry they're a part of.
So the way I often explain it to people is, imagine if you were trying to Google a topic like mortgage, or let's just go with performance metrics for investment advisors. Like, you're going to get so much junk. You're going to get news, you're going to get Wall Street Journal, you're going to get Joe Schmo law firm, you're going to get some consulting firms. What RegAlytics does is we cover only the regulators, and we cover them really, really well, and in a way that you can compare them apples to apples. So we cover over 5,000 regulators, and that means we scrape over 100,000 pages a night. We get the delta of what wasn't there yesterday, and we put it through an editing and cleansing process. And why does that matter? Well, imagine if it's the governor of a state. If the governor of the state is talking about like the prized pig at the festival, you're not really going to care about it if you're trying to look up financial alerts, right? And so you wouldn't see that one there. But we distill the data so that you're only getting things relevant to you, and you can even further distill it, right? So you can go into RegAlytics and you can say, show me any alert in the financial regulator sector about marketing, and it'll tell you how many were in the last month, how many were in the last 7 days, how many came out yesterday. And you can further shrink it to say, what happened in Germany, or what happened in Delaware, right? And you can say, what was it, a speech? Was it an actual law? Was it, someone getting in trouble for marketing? And so we just make it really, really easy to look in the world of what the actual regulators are doing and understand what's going on a real-time basis.
So this is basically like once they sign up for you, it's like your morning coffee read of what happened last night in the world of regulations, and it's bespoke to each individual that is looking at this kind of stuff. And so what all sectors or markets do you actually cover? Because it's not just finance.
That's right. So we do have the financial sector, and that's where we're originally from. Our founders are all Wall Street regulatory experts and data scientists who have like personally faced off to the regulators, and we really have sat in the seat of people responding to regulatory requests. But right away, our customers have asked us for labor and employment law. We got asked about pet insurance. We have a big automaker that wants every electric vehicle charging station. And so that's when we realized that our goal is to get all of the regulators' data into one place and then make it really, really easy for people to get exactly what they want and turn it on when they want it. So to bring it to the bar example, it's kind of like one of those, the soda thing where they click the button and it's Coca-Cola versus Sprite versus water.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you have just crypto regs in Illinois only. Separately, you have best interest rule across all the 50 states. Separately, you have cyber global. You have your feed that you want, and every morning you can go in and see what came out that you missed.
So you're the one-stop shop for all kinds of news updates, anything of interest on regulations, and you're able to do it in a way that cuts out extra noise. So you don't see what you don't need to see, but you see everything that matters to you.
Exactly.
The main topic today of our episode is about the new SEC composite marketing rule that's coming into effect in November. And so, Mary, I'll hand it over to you to kind of explain, what's this rule, why does it matter, and what does it do to firms in this industry?
So little backstory is that my former days, I have a law degree and a PhD, and I founded a company called RegAlytics where we watch regulations as they come out for over 5,000 regulators globally. And because of that, part of what I do is drink whiskey, and I read every regulatory alert for the last couple of years. And let me tell you, what a couple of years it's been. The world has changed before all of our eyes. But what was really interesting about this particular rule is I saw this come out as a final rule, meaning it was done and dusted, and it came out in December of 2020. And what does that mean? Well, it was the first signal that the Democrats had taken over because Biden was elected, and then the SEC, which previously had been very, very quiet and was doing very few, as limited regulation as possible, this was one of their first moves, and it came out in the form of a final rule. So I knew that they had been working on it and thinking about it for a while and talking about it. And it came out in December. And also, if you remember back then in 2020, everyone was biting their nails and worrying about the peaceful transition of power, right? And when it finally came out, it said that it was coming into effect in May of 2021. So back then you're like, okay, we've got time. But then it had an 18-month implementation deadline, which, as you just mentioned, it's coming live officially, done and dusted. You got to be doing it by November. And I find it so interesting today that here we're having the January 6th hearings, and it's been so much time has passed that it's like everything's coming together all at once from back 2 years ago during that crazy time in the news. So what is the rule? Well, one of the commissioners of the SEC, Hester Pierce, said it really in a funny way that I liked. Is she said, this regulation is so old, it's so old, it could have its own AARP card. Okay, so this was a rule that just needed to be modernized. And the idea was like, look what's happened in the world of marketing. We've got robo advisors, we've got social media, we've got digitization of data, we've got all of this activity going on. And our rule is so old, it just doesn't even cut the mustard in terms of what we want to be focused on. And so that's a lot of what this rule is about, is like cleaning it up, make it more workable. And there's three main areas that the rule really talks about. But I guess I'm going to stop there real quick and see if I should just keep right on going, or if you want to like interject with questions like, what are some of the,
I
know
guess
what I mean? Like,
yeah. So what are some of the main components of this rule?
Well, First of all, the rule redefines the definition of advertisement. And really notable about that is that they are now including this full world of social media, right? So a company's Facebook posts or a company's activity on Twitter and things that the company likes, all of that can be considered a part of advertising, right?
Okay.
The second part of the rule has to do with performance results. The most critical message of what the SEC is looking for is they want the results to be presented in a fair and balanced manner that you can back up, right? So for example, if you say 100% of our customers renewed, but you only have 2 customers, that's a little bit over the top in terms of what you're claiming, right? And so what they really want is that the performance results are reasonable, but also that they're substantiated, right? You actually have facts that can go into it and you can back it up.
Yeah, and you're not just cherry picking numbers that make you look good.
Exactly. And then the final piece they did is they revised Form ADV, which is a very long form that investment managers have to fill out every single year. And they've revised the section on marketing activities to ask you, for example, do your advertisements include performance results? Do they include testimonials? Do they include third-party ratings? Do they include endorsements? And if any of those are yes, show us your disclosures, right? Because one of the other things the SEC is worried about is if you are telling people that, you know, you should buy this product and you know, this famous person says it's a good product, you need to communicate to the public that that famous person's getting paid, right? And that's a critical piece. We had the last couple of years, I think Steven Seagal has gotten busted, and who are the other famous actors and actresses that have gotten involved where they're promoting cryptocurrency? Well, yeah. It's really a financial product, right? And so the SEC is going after them on a personal level, saying you can't tell people to buy a cryptocurrency without disclosing that that crypto fund is paying you money for saying those things. So that is also part of what they're doing, is just gathering information on which investment advisors, like, who are you paying, and are you making sure people know that they're being paid?
For sure. So how long is this actual regulation? You know, how big is it?
It's about 640 pages. So it's not fun to read. However, one of the things I often tell people is you don't have to be a lawyer to skim through 640 pages. The nice thing that the SEC does do is they give you the backstory. They explain why they're changing it. They explain that they read every single comment letter, and this is why they picked to go in this direction versus that direction. And so if you do invest the time to skim it, and I mean skim it, because, you know, this is not a Nancy Drew novel that you're gonna, read through with joy and exuberance to find out the solve of the mystery. I mean, it's pain. But a large portion of it is traditional stuff, like the Paperwork Reduction Act. Any regulation that comes out, there's like, I don't know, a 20-page assessment about if it's a burden to people to have to follow this regulation and how much they think it's going to cost to follow this regulation. And so some of the reg is, skippable, right? But it's really interesting to eyeball and see it for yourself, what's going on. Another strategy I usually take, because I use RegAlytics, which means I get every alert from every regulator on any topic, and I enjoy watching the commissioners, so the actual SEC commissioners. So a rule will come out, and then that same day you'll get statement on new rule, statement on new rule, statement on new rule. And a lot of times the statements tell you everything you need to know. Because there's always going to be a couple commissioners that say, I love this rule. It's going to do wonderful things. And this is how great it's going to be. And you'll have another set of commissioners that say, this is terrible. Do you know why it's terrible? Because it's going to ruin this and ruin that and cost all this money. And so that's where I got Hester's hilarious comments about, she's typically more conservative, so she doesn't love a lot of excessive regulation, but even she said, it's an old rule and there's parts of it I don't love, but it really needed a refresh.
For sure. And so if somebody was, say, using RegAlytics, what kind of value would that add to them being notified of this rule or other rules in the future?
Well, interesting thing generally I've learned about the industry over the years is that there's often the front office, right? They're the money makers, they're the smartest people in the room, they're super smart. But when it comes to regulatory, it's almost like there's an allergy to it. So they say, hey, it's regulatory, yuck, send it to the lawyers, right? And then it's true, the lawyers have to read the 640-page document and it's terrible, and they charge a lot of money to interpret it. But in the end, where I've seen the best success with any financial institution is where you have a front office that pays attention and follows what's going on, because they're alerted so much earlier. They have so much more time to think about it, but they also have the understanding of what the regulator's trying to achieve. But those are few and far between. The majority of what I see in the industry is some, lawyer coming to the front office saying, the house is on fire, the house is on fire, we have to do a bunch of stuff by November and we're not ready at all, and you're not ready. And the front office says, why do I have to do this again? What is it for? Do I have to pay what? How am I going to do this? And so that's why it's really beneficial. Sometimes if you've got a really great third-party data provider, and that's something nice, given that First Rate does performance metrics and you're already sitting on all of it. You should be the ones that help them comply, because then they'll just have the answer and they can relax and continue on with their lives, knowing that a portion of this puzzle is being solved.
Absolutely. And that leads very well into the state of the market at this point in time regarding the regulation, that the house is on fire and a lot of people don't know what to do about it, because firms are consistently underestimating both the cost and the time it takes to comply with this new regulation. A lot of firms, when it comes to the performance piece on not cherry picking returns for their marketing composites, they've been just manually adding accounts into or out of these composites that they're then marketing to their potential investors. And now with these new rules, you can't do that really anymore. It's just too complex. There's too many different sets of rules that have to be put in place, that it would be entirely too cumbersome to make that accurate. And if somebody messes up, like any process that is manually done, there's a chance for human error. You can't back that up, and the SEC is going to smack you down for having incorrect marketing materials.
Well, that's the beauty about the partnership between First Rate and RegAlytics, because now First Rate, as performance metrics, they also now have us, and we are a bunch of regulatory experts. Even though I drink whiskey, I do have the ability to talk about some hardcore regulations. And look, this isn't a new story. This is something that it's never ending. If it's not this rule, it's going to be another one. There's always new rules coming out, and the earlier notice you have, the better. But the great thing is, if you can leverage all of this amazing tech out there now, you can solve the puzzle with less of a heavy lift than before. And so that's what I like to try to encourage people, is use it as an excuse to leverage this new tech, right? Exactly.
I mean, you've got new players in the market like RegAlytics that are being able to help firms. You've got firms like First Rate that we provide a standalone tool called ACE, our automated composite engine, that can help solve for this very specific issue in being able to, based on a predefined set of rules, automatically create and monitor these composites so that accounts are filtered into or out based on whether they're discretionary or not, every single month. So you never have to worry about, is this data accurate? Are the right accounts in there? Are non-discretionary accounts sneaking in there? Or, and then if you're asked to back that data up, you have with full confidence the ability to say, yes, this is correct, and here's why, and show all of that information. And so as far as I'm aware, there's only one other tool on the market that does this. And since it's standalone, firms don't need to fully integrate with First Rate as much as we would like them to. But this tool can be a standalone product that First Rate's able to ingest structured or unstructured data streams through our data aggregation as a service team, and then run that information through our ACE tool and extract it right back out to the firm, so that way they've got that information ready to go right at their fingertips and are able to market those composites complying with this new rule and with confidence in the accuracy of that performance.
So I have a question for you, Alex.
Okay.
What's an example of data that maybe a firm would use your engine to extract that they would need that maybe they don't have otherwise?
Sure. So mainly the performance data. So typically this tool was designed to help firms comply with GIPS. And so this new rule essentially mimics GIPS. There are a few nuanced differences between the two, but it's a compliance tool. So it allows them to take in information that says what the returns are over certain periods of time for that particular composite, lets them know which accounts are participating in that composite and at what times, as some accounts may move into or out of a discretionary status.
So if they're already a First Rate customer, you're sitting on the data, but let's say maybe there's a missing piece of it, it's not hard for you to get it. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So a major obstacle that a lot of firms have is that whenever they're determining if an account is discretionary or non-discretionary, it depends on certain demographic data regarding that account. So some rules that clients use to determine if an account's discretionary or not is based on its market value of either the total account or of a particular sector or category. But if they're looking at demographic data, like who managed this account in 2009, what kind of objective or strategy was this account assigned to, and did it actually follow that objective or strategy? This is data points that a lot of firms don't have in our system. They didn't keep.
That's interesting.
They may have it in a PDF. They may have it in some form of a paper statement. They have to go find that, and a way that First Rate can help assist in getting that data, getting it loaded, and using that going forward for these marketing composites is with our artificial intelligence engine, ARTI. We are able to take in unstructured data sets like a group of PDFs, like paper statements that we can then scan and turn into a PDF, extract the important information from that page, and then load it into our system. So that way you have all of that historical information right at your fingertips and are able to construct these composites accurately. So that way you're not having to go back and go, all right, did manager A actually follow the strategy back in 2009, or did they start doing it in 2010, or did they stop following it again in 2013? And then we're having to figure out, okay, when did this account actually count as discretionary or not? And so I think that right now is one of the biggest obstacles that firms are facing. And then the other is just changing their existing processes from having somebody manually move accounts in or out on a monthly basis to now having to either account for a significantly higher number of accounts, or find a way to automate this using their existing systems. Which
interesting. So that's really good news for non-First Rate customers, that it's not hard either, since you guys already have everything they need for performance metrics.
Mhm.
They could send Artie through to get what is necessary to fill in the blanks.
Exactly. So as long as they have that data in some form or fashion, we ought to be able to ingest it and help solve this problem for them, and do it in a way that we can achieve compliance by November. Because again, that's a looming deadline just a few months away.
Yeah.
And so firms that either haven't started thinking about this or just started thinking about this, you got to get on the ball. Otherwise, you may be left behind.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, wherever something, and this is from my experience of doing crisis management on Wall Street for so many years, where there is even a piece of the regulation that can be solved, like get that done through some sort of third party, because you still always have a lot of hard work on your end that it's going to take some time to get ready to do. And some of it often is manual, right? You know, if you have advertisement that's like on the paper of someone's office, it's going to be a little harder because it's not digitized. And so that's great that you guys have put those pieces together.
Absolutely. And I think the partnership that First Trade RegAlytics has really provides a good 1-2 punch for the solution of, if you have a regulation coming up, we know about it long in advance. You ought to know about it long in advance. And then we're able to help prepare for that solution with a long enough runway that the solution can be tailored to your specific situation and give you the best possible value out of finding that solution, meeting that regulation, and potentially coming ahead in the market past firms that aren't quite as prepared as firms that are using RegAlytics and First Trade.
And most importantly, we have good taste in whiskey. So
that we
don't
do.
forget that.
Right. Well, I think this has been a wonderful podcast. Thank you, Mary, for joining me this afternoon and sharing a little bit of whiskey, sharing a little bit of talk about wealth tech. Again, First Trade and RegAlytics are great partners with one another, work very well together, and hope to help continue changing the wealth tech industry for the better and providing the best possible value to firms in this industry that can use this kind of wealth tech.
Thanks, Alex, for having me. Excited to see how the industry adopts this quickly, hopefully with the help of both of us.
Absolutely.